Welcome to Education 206, Module 4. We are going to explore cognitive learning theories that explain how students take in, process, and use information. We'll also look at additional frameworks that help us support the whole child, including their emotional, moral, and social development. These theories will help you become a more intentional and responsive educator, and they'll deepen your understanding for the Praxis PLT exam, which is an exam that you're required to take for your teacher certification. Additionally, you will have an assessment at the end of this module, and this material will help you prepare for it. All right, let's go ahead and review the module goals. By the end of this module, you should be able to describe several important learning theories and theorists, particularly those focused on information processing, instructional design, and child development. More importantly, you'll analyze how these ideas show up in lesson planning, classroom management, and student engagement. You'll see how theory translates into practice, both in your coursework, in your observations, and in your future classroom. All right, let's jump into talking about the first one. Robert Ganji, Conditions of Learning, focused on how teachers can design instruction to help students learn effectively. He developed the 9 events of instruction, a sequence for structuring lessons. These include getting attention, stating objectives, activating prior knowledge, and guiding practice. He believed that different types of learning, like facts versus problem solving, require different approaches. Using Ganji's steps helps ensure students are engaged, supported, and able to transfer their learning to new situations. Next is Benjamin Bloom with the Bloom's taxonomy. This one is one of the most famous ones and one that you will regularly use in your lesson planning course as well as your methods courses when you design and implement lesson plans. Bloom's taxonomy is one of the most widely used, as I just mentioned. It outlines cognitive levels from simple recall to creative problem solving. The original version included 6 levels: knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. The revised version shifted the language slightly. Now we say remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Teachers use Bloom's to plan lessons that challenge students at multiple levels, not just memorization. This is a chart that kind of helps you see Bloom's in action. So let's break it down into practical classroom use. If you ask a student to define a term, that's a low-level task, remembering. If you ask them to use that term in context or apply it in a new way, that's a mid-level task. Creating something new based on their knowledge is a high-level task. Use action verbs in your planning, like describe, compare, justify, or create, to align your instruction and assessment with higher order thinking. As you observe your field placement class this semester, take note of the type of learning that students are being expected to do in lessons. Is it low-level cognition, or is it mid-level, such as applying, or is it going to be higher level cognition, such as creating, evaluating, or analyzing? Now let's look at Erik Erikson's psychosocial development. Erikson's theory helps us understand how students develop socially and emotionally over time. He identified 8 stages, each with a key challenge. In childhood, the focus is on developing confidence and competence. For example, school-age children need opportunities to succeed at tasks, industry versus inferiority. Adolescents are exploring their identity, so our classroom should support that development. A student who feels successful and seen is more likely to stay engaged and take academic risks. Now let's examine Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences. Gardner challenged the idea that intelligence is one-dimensional. He proposed that students have multiple intelligences, such as linguistic, musical, spatial, bodily kinesthetic, interpersonal, and more. This theory encourages us to teach in multiple ways, not just through lectures or reading. If a student is struggling with a concept, it might not be that they don't understand. It might just be that we haven't presented it in a way that connects to their strengths. Now let's look at Maria Montessori's hands-on child-centered learning. Montessori believed that children learn best when they're free to explore and engage with materials on their own terms. Her approach is highly student-centered and focuses on choice, independence, and sensory learning. The teacher's role is to guide, not direct. In a Montessori-style environment, you'd see students moving freely, working at their own pace, and using real-world tools. Even if you don't teach in a Montessori school, her principles can inform your classroom setup and student autonomy. Next is Lawrence Kohlberg's moral development. Kohlberg studied how children and adolescents develop a sense of right and wrong. He identified 3 levels of moral reasoning: pre-conventional, focused on avoiding punishment; conventional, focused on rules and approval; and post-conventional, focused on justice and ethics. Understanding this helps teachers support students as they navigate fairness, decision-making, and peer relationships. We can build moral reasoning through discussions, classroom norms, and opportunities to reflect on values and choices. As with our previous modules, the goal isn't just to memorize names and stages. The real value is in applying these ideas to your own teaching. Ganji and Bloom help you design lessons. Gardner, Montessori, and Erickson remind you to differentiate for student needs. Kohlberg shows how you can guide moral and social growth. Ask yourself, am I creating a space where students feel seen, challenged, and supported? That's what these theories are all about. As you observe your field placement classes in upcoming modules, keep these learning theories in mind to help you make sense and to enhance the experience of observing learning in action. Additionally, these materials will help you prepare for an assessment at the end of this module, as well as your midterm exam. And finally, they will help you prepare for that Praxis PLT. All right, check you out next module.